empty seats in front of us, please. Thank you, even as you move. And I hope you forgive me for distracting you. Thank you, even as you move. Thank you so much. We are grateful to God for this opportunity first to be here. And this morning, Madam Claudia and myself, Agbara Tanku, will be your servants for this program. So we are going to run the show together. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you. So we want to have a word of prayer, and then we can start. It's traditional of us Ghanaians, for that matter, to pray before we start every program. Just a minute ago, I asked a colleague, "How are you?" And she said, "Well." So I said, "Okay." This morning I was reflecting. 25 seconds of earthquake, traveling a distance of 100 kilometers, killed 45,000. So if this morning you were seated here, what else can we say but to say, God, we thank you. So let's pray. God, we are grateful for the opportunity to be alive and to be here to serve humanity, to serve Mother Ghana. We pray, committing this event into your care. Take control, that everything that we'll be doing here, that will apply wisdom and will apply all resources needed to ensure that society benefits. This and many more we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much. I will hand over to Madam Claudia to take us through the next session. Thanks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to officially welcome... Hello? Okay. We would like to officially welcome you to the launch of Ghana's food-based diet. Hello? We would like to officially welcome you to the launch of Ghana's food-based dietary guidelines. And we are really grateful you are here. We have some special people in our midst, so I would like to welcome them individually, if you don't mind. We have been honored with the presence of Dr. Francis Kasolo, the World Health Organization country rep to Ghana. Thank you. Welcome. We have our very own Prof. Analate here with us. She is going to be the chair for today as well. Thank you, Prof. Welcome. And we have, who else? Who else? Please, I'm sorry if I haven't mentioned your name right, but over the course of the period, we'll be introducing more and more. I see some familiar faces from FAO, from World Vision, from WFP, I believe. Yes, so thank you so much for being here, and we will start very soon. Please, are we streaming now? Because I had some messages from some people waiting eagerly to see us online. All right, so hello to those of you online as well. Thank you for being here with us virtually. So now I would like to call on Prof. Richmond Aite, co-chair for the multi-sectorial technical task team. It's a mouthful. We just say MTTT. So Prof, please come up.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see all of you here. I am particularly happy to see that we've gone such a long journey to be here. I'm here and very pleased to introduce the chairperson for this very important event. Our chairperson is a professor of nutrition who is currently teaching part-time at the University of Ghana, where I also work. She was the director of nutrition at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in Rome, and she was in that position from October 2013 to December 2020, where she led FAO's work on food systems for nutrition. And you'll be hearing that terminology a lot as we go ahead today. Prior to that, Professor Nalate was a professor in nutrition at the University of Ghana between 1986 and 2013. She also held a Fulbright Fellow position from 1994 to 1998 at the University of California, Davis in USA. She worked as a researcher in sub-Saharan Africa for 27 years. Her research focused on maternal and child nutrition. And for her work, she won many accolades. She won the University of Ghana's prestigious Best Researcher Award for 2004. She held the International Development Research Center Research Chair in Nutrition for Health and Socioeconomic Development in Sub-Saharan Africa between 2009 and 2014. And she serves currently on several global and local boards and committees. She was a recipient of the Sight and Life Nutrition Leadership Award for 2014. Professor Nalate was the president of the International Union of Nutritional Sciences, one of the highest bodies of nutrition societies around the world. And she was in this capacity between 2013 and 2017. Professor Nalate was awarded a Doctor of Science honoris causa by McGill University in June 2018. And then most recently in 2022, December, she received the prestigious International Union of Nutritional Sciences Lifetime Achievement Award for outstanding, and I'll say it again, outstanding contribution to nutrition of regional and global significance working in a developing country. And I can go on and on. I think you should all join me as we recognize our chairperson, Professor Nalate, and then I'll hand it over to her to give her remarks. I think we can continue doing that.
Thank you very much, Professor Richmond Aiti, for the kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it is really a privilege for me to chair this very important occasion. I say this important occasion because when a country develops its food-based dietary guidelines, it's a significant step that we should not take for granted. You know, Africa has about 54 countries, and only 8 have food-based dietary guidelines. When I served as the director of FAO, Nutrition FAO, that was one of the things I really wanted to push, increase the numbers in Africa. And it was actually a bit of an embarrassment for me at the time, knowing that my own country did not have food-based dietary guidelines. So it was also ways in which I put a lot of effort to see that Ghana will have it. So, Professor Aite and your team, I say a big thank you for making this happen. You know, it's really useful. Now, food-based dietary guidelines, I'm sure they will talk about what it means and all. But the reason why a country should have food-based dietary guidelines is that you are making a statement that this is how we want our citizens to eat. So the document is government owned, saying this is how we want our citizens to eat to remain healthy. Why should we worry about that? Because currently, poor diet is a major cause of disease and death among people. In fact, many people are dying because of the way they eat. They just do not eat well. So if today we have a document like this, I think that is a big step for Ghana. It's good for Ghana's nutrition. It's good in moving us all forward. Some countries call their guidelines dietary guidelines. But Ghana is saying that food-based dietary guidelines. That means we are putting emphasis on food. People should eat food to remain healthy. And Ghana abounds in so many foods, but somehow we have pushed a lot of our nutritious foods to the sides. And yet we are eating imported, highly processed foods, and it's not helping us very much. How can we incorporate our indigenous foods to promote the healthy diet that we want to have? I don't think I'll say too much, but I just want to say that what has been done for us today is significant, is good for every Ghanaian, and hopefully we'll see this translated in our lives in better quality. So on this note, I'll just say thank you for the opportunity to chair. It's indeed a privilege for me. Thank you very much.
transformation. Been more infrastructural development related to roads, ICT, which has really expanded access to communication, water and sanitation. We've done much better related to water than with sanitation and hygiene, but we are making progress in that area. We've also seen important declines in poverty, although whilst that has occurred, we have also seen increased inequality. How about food and the food nutrition sector? We've seen important declines in food insecurity, but we still have too much food insecurity to be comfortable. And so those are the kinds of things that have influenced the development of our food-based dietary guidelines. We've also seen globally recognized reductions in undernutrition, especially chronic undernutrition among Ghanaian children. But we see that there's still too much undernutrition to be comfortable with. There's, on the other hand, rapidly rising overweight and obesity, and along with it, diet-related non-communicable diseases. And in nutrition parlance, we talk about multiple burdens of malnutrition. So we are seeing undernutrition persisting, declining but slowly, but at the same time also increasing rates of caloric overnutrition and also persistent micronutrient deficiency disorders. What are Ghanaians eating? Ghanaians' diet is becoming more westernized and generally suboptimal because the components of the diet that promote optimal health and development is not at recommended levels, and those also informed the decisions for the food-based dietary guidelines. For example, we saw that in reviewing existing evidence, there's inadequate frequency, quantity, and variety of intake of fruits. And then also vegetables, but our vegetable intake is limited within a small group of vegetables. We also have suboptimal intake of legumes and nuts in our diet. And all these are known to be important components of a healthy diet. Studies we had done in urban Accra and in Volta region shows that there is lots of access and consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages, fried foods, refined cereals. And it appears that in our diet, from the evidence that exists, our diet has become mainly a rice or pasta, meat and fish pattern. And then also we tend to eat out, especially street food, a lot. So that also has a purchase pattern to our diet. But we see that across all age groups, we are not eating a diverse diet. Now, in nutrition language, when we say a diet is diverse, then we are including multiple types of food in our diet. And the higher the diversity of the diet, the better. Alongside that, we are also seeing that there's a change in the food environment because we are beginning to see people eating things that a few years ago were not what most people were eating. So we are seeing that because of lifestyle changes and changes in what is being offered in the spaces that we are in our offices, in the schools where our children go to. And if you cast our minds back a few years ago, people would usually go to some food vendor who is selling food by the wayside. These days, we've upgraded it to a small container that has some kind of a fast food. But it's not only that. There's also the international fast food chains that are becoming a part of our food ecosystem. And that is being driven by our lifestyles that are also changing. So, our food-based dietary guidelines is an attempt to be able to find a way to improve our diets within this context that I've explained. So what a food-based dietary guideline does is to express what constitutes a diet that promotes optimal health and well-being and performance. In other words, promote optimal human development. And it provides a practical recommendation of what diets are available, affordable, and achievable by most of the population, because this is being developed for the population. So, unlike a clinical guideline, this is not a guideline for treatment. This is a guideline for preventing ill health and for promoting optimal human development. And so it's useful to society as a guide for making decisions on what we should choose to eat. But it has another benefit. It also is useful at policy and program level for government and non-government community level interventions that are related to food. And I'll give you examples of those shortly. As I mentioned, this is the first time we are developing a truly food-based dietary guidelines. In the past, the government has made attempts to develop guidelines that would be used by extension workers and other workers who are involved in social services to serve as a guide for them in reaching out to communities. This is the first time we are now putting that information in the hands of the general public so that they can take their own health in their hands. So how have we done this? Globally, the World Health Organization and the Food and Agriculture Organization have put together a pathway, if you like, for developing food-based dietary guidelines. And it is quite rigorous. So we adapted this approach. We started by forming what we call a multi-sectoral task team. Now, this idea started way back in 2016. So we've come a long journey in this. But it wasn't until 2020 that we actually got funding for technical support to be able to carry out some of the research that underpinned the food-based dietary guidelines. So the committee was set up under the joint leadership of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and then the University of Ghana. And it involved a cross-section of various government agencies, UN agencies, also civil society organizations. And I must say that we were very careful to make sure that there were no issues around conflict of interest. So we had a guiding principles to guide how these were developed, because this is supposed to serve the general public. So the first step was to set the objectives for the food-based dietary guidelines and the target group. We made a strategic decision that because there already exists in government policy guidelines for children below 2 years, we're not going to look at that. So these guidelines were developed for children 5 years and above. Another reason that informed that decision was that the World Health Organization was going through a process of revising complementary feeding guidelines for young children. And so we wanted to wait for that to come so that that would then be used and leveraged for developing for younger children. Now, because we are developing this for Ghana and for the general public, it has to be evidence-based, and therefore we commissioned a number of evidence reviews across several topics of relevance to the food-based dietary guidelines, and then that formed the basis for priorities that we set for the food-based dietary guidelines. And I'll show you some of these topics. So we looked at food systems. What kind of food are we producing across different parts of the country? And then also what's the food access, food availability, food safety issues, and then also food environment, dietary consumption. All these were part of the evidence that informed the food-based dietary guidelines. We also wanted to understand people's knowledge about diets and what informs their choice of what they eat. We are in Ghana. There are some people who like particular kinds of food, and if they haven't eaten it, they haven't eaten. They can eat anything, but if they haven't eaten a particular food, they haven't eaten. Should I mention one of those? My own people, the Ghana people, you are there. All right. So then we also had to look at what policies currently exist that are relevant for our diets. Policies related to food production, policies related to government strategies for reaching different groups. We know that there is a school feeding program existing, and then there is a LEAP program. So all these government interventions that have food relevance, we considered them. We also looked at issues around environmental sustainability. We want to have healthy diets, but we don't want to jeopardize the future whilst doing that. And so environmental sustainability was an important consideration. And then we also reviewed other food-based dietary guidelines around the world and made a decision to include non-food behaviors. And so we reviewed issues around alcohol intake, around physical activity, and we included some of those. Now, all this involved using local evidence so that it will be contextually appropriate. But we also looked at global evidence of which diets are really effective. So we combined both the local evidence and the global evidence to do these reviews. When we finished, then we brought together stakeholders. This happened mainly between the ending part of 2020 and then 2021. So whilst many people were locked down, we were locked in a room trying to work on this. And I really have to commend the task team who really sacrificed to come together at a time when we all had to be careful to do this. And so we went through a process of prioritization and then also modeled which diet best gives us optimal health based on the evidence that we have. Then once we had done that, we went to the field with the information we have. First, we developed what we call technical messages. This made sense to us, that the scientists and the various stakeholders, but we needed to then make sure, would people understand that message? Will it make meaning to them? Will it resonate with them? And so we had interviews, in-depth interviews across the 3 ecological zones in Ghana. That took a while and generated quite a lot of data, but it helped give us feedback whether people understand what we have put together. Eventually, we came back and then used that to modify the messages and the recommendations that we have created. And then out of that, we got an artist to also transform the messages into images that can help communicate the recommendations, because not everybody can read. And so we need to find a way to use that also to communicate. And then these messages were also pre-tested so that to know whether people actually understand. And then we eventually had a validation session with various stakeholders. Many of you in this room were part of that. And then following that, today we are here. Now, the result of this, we believe, is a truly food-based guideline, because people understand food. Many people don't understand when we say nutrient. They understand food. So that's what we are communicating. And then it's based on our understanding on and modeling of what a healthy diet is. That is also based on food groups that we have defined based on what people usually eat. And then we have the complementary recommendations that go along with them, that are the non-food guidelines. But we've also, in addition to these, looked at recommendations for action by government agencies, by other stakeholders in the ecosystem who are providing food or who are providing technical assistance, so that their actions would enable compliance with the food-based dietary guidelines. For example, and I've listed just a few of those here, before people can eat a diverse diet, our food production should be diversified. So government programs, government's main flagship program is the PFJ. And yet we know that we can do more to improve on the diversification aspect of that. We also have included in that fiscal policies to promote healthier diets, because we know that in some countries they put taxes on unhealthy food, and then it limits consumption of those foods. And I'm happy to note that late last year the government passed a bill to put taxes on some sugar-sweetened beverages. So this is really exciting to see that some of the things that we are promoting have already started being implemented. There's also the need for technologies to address one of the big challenges in our food system, which is food loss and food waste. And that's a huge challenge that needs to be addressed. And so we have recommendations on how to address that. Also, policy on healthier diets procurement. I mean, one of the things that we think is a low-hanging fruit is that for every organization here, if you procure food for your meeting and you make a point to procure healthier options, that's going to change the way we live, because people are going to make those choices, learning from what you do in your workplaces, in homes, in churches, and all kinds of social groups that we belong to. So I am happy to note that today, for our launch, we have insisted that we set an example for that. So let us know when we close whether we've been able to do that with the kind of snacks that we are going to give you. And then another important part is food safety. There are major food safety challenges, issues around traceability, and then also marketing, safety in the marketing system. So those are just a flavor of the recommendations that are made at the food system level. So there are two levels. There's the individual level that we have made recommendations, and then the food system recommendations. And then in the last few months, we've been spending a lot of time also working on developing an implementation strategy. So for us, the technical task team, we've gone a long mile trying to produce the document, but the work is now about to start, the implementation. So if anybody has a whistle, this is when to blow it. We are going to now get the work started. So we've developed a roadmap on what each key stakeholder is going to be done, stakeholder map with the capacities of various stakeholders, what they can do and what they have capacity to do. And then out of that, we've developed a roadmap for implementation. On that note, I think this is a good time for me to really appreciate all the great effort that the multi-sectoral technical task team has done over these past, now it's, I should say, effectively about 3 to 4 years work invested in this. So please indulge me. Let me ask all the multi-sectoral technical task team members who are here to be upstanding, and let's acknowledge you. We have those from government agencies. I think, oh, so you cannot see what is there. So I'll mention some of them by name. So please be upstanding. Let's see you. We have Ministry of Food and Agriculture, NDPC, Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, GES, School Feeding Program, FDA, Ghana Statistical Service, Ministry of Finance. Then we have the UN agencies, FAO, World Food Program, UNICEF, WHO. And then we have the civil societies, Ghana Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and then World Vision. And then there were a lot of academic partners involved in this. So we have University of Ghana, KNUST, UDS, UHAS, CSIR, especially STEPRI and FRI were involved. Then University of the University of Sheffield was also involved in this. So I just want to appreciate them. Please join me in appreciating them for all the work that they have done. And on that note, I would invite my co-chair, Paulina, to come and give the recommendations, overview of the recommendations. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. And I think I would also have to stand on the existing protocol and just proceed. So, for my part, I am just going to highlight on the core recommendations and also the complementary recommendations in the food-based dietary guidelines, so we all attain a healthy life. And for the 7, they are core. And the first starts with the recommendation on eating a diverse diet. And if we had projected, it would have been very interesting. But for the icon we have to use, we'll have to still wait for it to be officially launched, because we won't want to imitate any country's dietary guidelines, especially for the 6 food groups. So that is an empty cell for now. But for the emphasis on eating a diverse diet, we are hinging it on the availability of the food. It has to be there. And as my co-chair hinted, we are blessed with great diversity as a country. And then for access, when food is in season, it is much cheaper, and we can add value to the food to make it available all year round. And that also touches on the affordability. That brings us closer to getting the food. Food can be available, but if we don't grow it from our own production resources, it means we would have to procure. And if the money is not there, then we have a challenge. And then the promotion on consumption. We have 2 key agencies that do that, especially the health and also the extension from agriculture, to promote healthy eating. And we need to put the searchlight on these entities. And then at the various levels, it could be from home, schools, various institutions. Even if they are prisoners, they need to be healthy. And we are together a nation, so we have to look at all the categories and ensure diverse food intake reaches all of us. The second recommendation is to eat a variety of fruits. So that is also a subset from the 6 food groups. And I would want to say that sadly, Ghanaians don't consume much fruits. If we look at our recall of what we've eaten even just yesterday, and we ask ourselves how much of fruits was part of our diet, it won't be anything encouraging. So we are recommending that we eat at least 2 servings of fruits daily, especially those in season. And when we ask which ones, yes, we have great diversity around our market. It's so colorful with fruits, so we can even choose from the various colors or even the fruit type and make sure we cover a wide range as possible. And then when to eat these, we can have fruits as part of our main meal or as a snack. The good thing is that most of these fruits give us vitamin C because we don't process them in the fresh states. They give us vitamin C, which helps with the absorption of iron in the body. For our indicators, anemia is a problem area, and eating fruits can contribute immensely. And then for handling, we have to wash fruits thoroughly, preferably with potable water. Running water now, if we even don't have a tap and we fetch into the Veronica buckets, we can still have running water to wash our fruits. Sometimes you go around and there's a bowl, it turns brown and there's still the washing activity. Please, the microbials have to be reduced for us to have healthy foods or safer foods. And then we also have to eat, especially the fresh fruits. When we process, the tendency to add sugars to stabilize it is very high. So when fruits are in season, please indulge. I can eat a bucket full of mangoes when it's in season. Nothing happens to me. So please, when fruits are in season, please enjoy as much as possible. The flip side of it is the wastage. We lose so much because they are perishable. So let it go into your system to benefit your body other than letting it go waste. Yeah. So for the third recommendation, we pointing towards eating a variety of vegetables every day. And that also has a wide range. We sometimes take them in salads, raw, but we have to also be mindful of washing very well. And for the water, we can have a 10% salt solution or lime added or lemon juice added to make sure we reduce the microbials as much as we can. And for our vegetables, when we have to cook, we like overcooking our vegetables in Ghana. It stays on the fire forever, but we lose a lot of our nutrients, especially the heat label ones. So let's be careful when it gets to the cooking. And then for the mode, we can also reduce the addition of the additives to some of our vegetables, the way we prepare them. And that can take us into the optimum health we are all looking up to. The next is the recommendation on eating a variety of legumes, pulses, and nuts. When I talk about legumes, the legume family is the umbrella, and then we have the pulses, which are the dry seeds in the pods. So when we pick our cowpea, they fall under the pulses. And then we also have nuts, and these have been grouped under the food groups. So we have them as legumes, pulses, and nuts. And they provide a cheaper source of protein. If we are unable to afford the animal sources, we can resort to taking our protein from this group. And we have to also ensure that it's part of the daily meal. One observation we've made is since we don't eat these foods in isolation and we add other things, for a food like the red we all love, sometimes it is drenched in so much fat and we lose it. Wache is also another good food, complementary cereals and legumes, but we are adding so much of the fat. Please don't look at me. My structure may not be ideal, but we have to reduce the fat intake because it has implications for adverse health effects. Yes. So we should also include legumes pulses and nuts as part of our daily meal. But some people may not like the after effect of consuming this foods, the gas formation. So for handling, we recommend that we soak in water and then we cook slowly. And we have also been relying on some evidence, and adding a bit of ginger or turmeric has reduced to a large extent the bloating we experience after consuming these foods. And we also recommend 2 servings. For the 5th recommendation, we now go to the animal source foods, and we can name several of them, from the beef, pork, poultry, go on and on to fish, etc. And we have to just choose from any of these categories. But then we have a caveat. We have to make sure it is lean. If we can remove as much as possible the fats, it will help us a long way. Sometimes we like the skin to be on our meat products, and that is where the fats can be found. We can remove as much as possible and make our animal source foods healthier. If you are not a vegan, we have to consume animal foods, but we have to stick to the quantities that we have to consume, because one key nutrient, the vitamin B12, resides in animal source foods, and we really cannot run away from them. And then we have the 6th recommendation on the use of healthy fats, seeds. And this should be in moderation. For the seeds, we are talking about the musk melon or man melon, what we call agushi or neri. We have a whole range of nuts, for oil seeds, and then for the fats and oils, we have our palm oil, the palm kernel oil, coconut oil, we have granite oil. Please, these are local productions. Let's use them. And then for the exotic type, we have the sunflower, olive, etc. We could also use this, but in moderation. You go to some countries and their sauces are a bit plain, very tasty, but our side has so much of oil on top. I don't know whether it's for the aesthetic, but we tend to use a lot of oil in our sauces, and that is not healthy. So we recommend that we opt for foods that are boiled, baked, grilled, or smoked over foods that are fried. And then the last recommendation is to eat as wide a variety of our whole grain, tuber, roots, and root, tuber, crops, and then our grain. We do not grow wheat in Ghana. We eat so much of bread, but now we are adding a bit of bran to our bread to make it the whole grain we would have loved, and that is a good choice. There are some foods that are whole grain, others we dehull, but once we have options for whole grain foods, that should be the go for. And for the complementary, these are just to caution us. The first one is emphasizing on eating foods less frequent, eating these foods less frequently. Foods that are high in sugar, we have our drinks, the salted snacks, and then I mentioned a food, for instance, the red we all know. The plantain is fried, there's oil with the beans, And then we also have fried fish on the side. Let's be advised and then choose our foods well. We also need to be physically active. Now we see a lot of walking around or jogging. If your area is not safe and you cannot indulge in any of this, you can also do some gardening around your home. And I would also want to say that for the women, we do a lot of physical activity around the home, moving from place to place. And once we get organized, the movement gets curtailed. But that does not mean we should not be physically active. We have to move. And then we also need to read labels on our food packaging. We need to know what it contains in order to avoid what we don't want to take. Safety has been mentioned. We need to make sure our food is safely kept, even if it has to be in the refrigerator at the correct temperature. And if we have to move it out because the time in the fridge has expired, we should let it go, because the microbes can cause a lot of havoc. We need also to drink water regularly as we can. And last but not the least, we have a rival called alcohol. We have to reduce the intake of our alcohol. It gives us energy, it gives us toxic components, and as much as possible, we have to just make sure we limit to the barest minimum our intake of alcohol. When you get a copy of the food-based dietary guidelines, you get much detail on all these recommendations. And at this point, I would want to thank you very much for your audience. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Shall we applaud Madam Paulina Ade? In fact, she's spoken to a lot of us. We have a combination of the gobe. You choose there, and you put everything together. And today we are made to understand that can be harmful. Thank you so much once again for the education. I just want to take this opportunity to acknowledge one senior member of government. He is the Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture in charge of crops. He is an MP for Manso Adubia constituency, Honorable Yao Frimpong Ado. Auntie Claudia, take over. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of hearing all these recommendations, we are going to be physically active for 2 quick minutes. So we're just going to take a really quick, short break. Our sound guys are going to play some music for us. Just take the opportunity to stand up, stretch your legs, turn around, anything just for 2 minutes while they prepare the setup for the documentary. Oh, stand it. Oh, it's too
Dear Madam Chair,
for taking a nice quick break. I saw some dance moves, but I saw others were just chatting, which is fine. So now we're going to watch a brief documentary. So stay tuned.
Dear Madam Chair, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like to, first of all, congratulate Ghana and all of those who took part in the process of the Ghana Dietary Guidelines for this great achievement. A fruitful collaboration led by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the University of Ghana benefited from the participation of experts from multiple government agencies, academic institutions, UN agencies, and many others, and resulted in the dietary guidelines being launched today. The inputs from so many stakeholders have strengthened the process and set the groundwork for wide implementation of the Ghana Dietary Guidelines. The Ghana Dietary Guidelines distinguish themselves since they have expanded to include a food systems approach. The evidence used took into consideration a wide view of food systems and how they impact diets. This food systems approach will help inform actions all along food systems to better support these diets and to have a better chance to improve nutrition. The Ghana Dietary Guidelines are also innovative in that they will have a broad, multi-stakeholder implementation strategy that is currently under development and that we hope many of you will support. The new methodology for food system-based dietary guidelines that FAO will be publishing soon will include the case of Ghana for countries to learn from it. Finally, I would like to thank Ghana, in particular the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, for the trust placed on FAO to provide technical support to this process through the collaboration with the University of Ghana. This great collaboration and commitment is what made this possible. Once again, congratulations to all.
have a problem in Ghana, and that problem has to do with diet-related non-communicable diseases. There are 3 ingredients in our food that really is contributing to this: sugar, salt, and fat.
The food that we eat is supposed to build our body and help the body function well. And so there's this famous saying that garbage, if you put garbage in, you also going to get garbage out. What is happening now is that because of changes in our diet and urbanization, many of us, because of lack of time, because we are busy, many people are eating out of the house, out of home now. The food that people are eating are foods that are not going to help the body work properly.
So you need the nutrients for the body to perform well. And the nutrients come from the diet. So that if you don't have the diet or the type of diet that to provide you with the nutrients, then that means that your body cannot perform well. It can be in terms of health, you can fall sick easily because you don't have the nutrients. You can even be more likely to die compared to somebody who from sicknesses because you are not getting the nutrients. Children may not be able to grow well as tall as they should. Sometimes children cannot even learn well at school. They cannot perform well in school because they lack some nutrients.
Your diet, what you usually eat and or drink. Most modern diets contain high amounts of sugar, salt, and fat. Because these ingredients are used in preserving processed foods.
There are certain nutrients that are not good for the body. High fatty foods, foods that are high in sugar, and foods that are highly processed, like ultra processed. We call them ultra processed foods. These foods do not help the body to work well, but rather bring diseases unto us.
You have a situation where these children have lost their ability to develop well. And if they don't develop well, one of the places that it affects them is in their mental development. At that stage, it has implications on their ability to learn.
And the diseases that they bring to us are the non-communicable diseases, such as cardiovascular diseases, cancers, diabetes, and all of the others.
Scientific evidence has demonstrated that increased consumption of foods high in simple sugars, salt, and certain types of fat increases our risk for diet-related chronic diseases.
There are three main types of contaminants that affect food. We have physical contaminants like broken wood pieces of glass that can harm individuals when they ingest it. We have biological contaminants like germs that find their way to food that cause diseases. And we have chemical contaminants. Some are inherently present in food, like aflatoxins that are produced by microbes that are found in food, or some may be processing hazards like polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or it could be pesticide residues that find itself in food.
Stunting is when people have restricted growth. Children living in rural areas and in low-income households are more likely to be too short for their age. Among adolescents in schools, almost 2 out of every 5 are either overweight or obese.
So if you meet 10 people, chances are 6 of them are overweight. And here I'm talking about the women. So that is something that should make and try to do something about it.
For iron, the child is not in school, the child cannot be consistent, so the child cannot perform.
So poverty is creating stunting. Stunting growth also then generates poverty, a cycle. And that really takes me.
There was a set to determine who eats fruits and vegetables and how much fruits and vegetables is being consumed. And this majority of Ghanaians are not eating enough vegetables.
Now, we fear into me hospital. I'm more catching me say, me moja na ba. Say me did you na? Ah, me ye me moja.
Mga gila ayira bona. Ane vet obrano we. Potong wan passe ay zangwene ye gigiltu. To
enable persons living in Ghana to choose their health, the food-based dietary F has been aged as a tool of healthier lifestyles.
This we have based on evidence. Evidence is what will guide the development of dietary guidelines. This time we are looking at the life from the teen adult to then even because the large eye group of people we've not paid enough attention to enable also healthy.
So the food-based dietary guidelines that has been developed now for Ghana does not just limit its focus on how to choose foods. It also talks about food safety and how to read labels.
You are what you eat, and ensuring food safety, it is a shared responsibility between the manufacturer or the producer of the food, the agencies who have a mandate to ensure that the food are safe, like Food and Drugs Authority, and the consumer.
So that generally we are looking at a holistic approach to how people choose their foods and how they eat it to optimize their health and nutrition.
FBDG is a simple
Our friends following virtually have like a slight 2 minutes delay. So
Preventing nutritional problems, that is, conditions arising from poor quality diet.
And then for the recommendations that we are making, it's not just based on choosing from the food groups, but we've done a lot of scientific work behind the scene work, doing food modeling to come to this point of recommending various portions of food to stay healthy. We've also not worked in isolation. The ministry had to put together a multi-sectorial team. So we've drawn from various ministries, we've drawn from various agencies who are pertinent towards the development of the food-based dietary guidelines.
So our recommendation.
My respects to my lecturers and my tutors, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm giving these remarks on behalf of the Director General, Ghana Health Service, on behalf of the Director for the Family Health Division, where the Nutrition Department sits. Madam Chair, all protocol duly observed. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. So the Family Health Division, and for that matter, the Ghana Health Service, is pleased to be part of the official launch of the Ghana Food-Based Dietary Guidelines, developed based on international best practices, including the conduct of a needs assessment, the development of technical recommendations, field testing, and validation of the recommendations coming from the engagements from the field. The development has been done with a multinational task team led, as we have heard this morning, by the Ministry of Agric and then University of Ghana. We in the Ghana Health Service are happy to be associated with this process. You saw my acting director on the screen and the one who spoke about vitamins in fruits. So please cast your mind back to what you saw and you remember who I'm talking about. Though the country has made some progress in reduction of undernutrition, it continues to grapple with increasing incidence of overweight and obesity and micronutrient malnutrition. I think Prof. Ayete has said that this morning. All of these have been proven to affect the quality of life and productivity of any nation's population. As a service, we develop guidance documents and implement same to improve the health of our population. To this end, and I think he alluded to that also, there is some guidance for food intake or what we should eat during pregnancy and lactation and for children who are under 5 years. And the aim is to ensure that they have optimum health during pregnancy and throughout the breastfeeding period and when we are all children as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the Family Health Division of the Ghana Health Service has the vision of developing healthy and well-nourished adults and children for national development. And it seeks to achieve this through a variety of strategies, including the provision of information to the general population and to our pregnant women during our OPDs, during the child welfare clinic service points, and every health contact has been used as an opportunity to talk about some kind or some aspect of our health. For us, optimal nutrition, which starts from pregnancy, is to ensure that the pregnant woman is well nourished to have a healthy baby, and she continues with exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. However, there remains a gap in the recommendations, and as we have heard this morning, for our children above 5 years, our adolescents, and the whole adult population, excluding probably the pregnant women and those who are breastfeeding, and our elderly citizens currently lack these guidance on what they should eat. So it has come at the right time for us as a service. We are happy to have been part of the process, and we are happy to be able to use the product also. We congratulate the tax team and their team leads that worked on this document for this achievement. We also wish to acknowledge our partners and all of us whose contributions has brought that team this far. For us at Ghana Health Service, these guidelines will serve as one of the main reference documents for engaging different sections of our population on what, how, and when to eat. And hopefully we aim that all of us will develop healthier eating habits so that we'll grow well and will contribute our quota to the national development. And we will do this through adapting them and integrating them into our service provision guidelines that we use across the length and breadth of the country. We also believe, on another point, that this document will enhance the livelihoods of our farmers, because we will seek to promote the foods that they produce locally at all levels. On the occasion of this lunch, we join all of us here present to once again congratulate the technical team and congratulate our country for this achievement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that message. Next, we would like to call on Madam Mary Impere of the National Development Planning Commission.
Madam Chair, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister for Agriculture, the country rep for WHO, colleague, technical working group. I'm used to TWG. The other one is a mouthful. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I deliver these remarks on behalf of the Sun Focal Point and Chairman of the National Development Planning Commission, Professor George Jan Bafo, and the Director General on the occasion of the launch of Ghana's food-based dietary guidelines. As we all know, Ghana is experiencing a dietary transition due to urbanization. I think that the professors have done a great job. I mean, this launch has been an education session, and I think we should give it up to them. So it makes my work very easy. And we are not doing well, obviously, from when it comes to the diet-related indicators. And NCDs, diet-related NCDs, are a silent epidemic. I hope I'm not going to be called an alarmist, but it is. For just 2020, in 2020 alone, 86,300 deaths in 2022, representing, I think, 45% of all mortalities. That is serious. At the UN Food Systems Summit in 2021, government committed to promote safe, sustainable, and healthy diets by 2030. One concrete action was to develop food-based dietary guidelines that would define context-specific, sustainable, healthy diets, among others. NDPC, that's the reason why NDPC has been very, supportive of this process. We believe that these guidelines will serve as an important standardized tool to assess evidence-informed nutrition and health information for promoting healthy eating and lifestyles. This will hopefully tackle the challenge of misinformation and disinformation in the media messages that we are bombarded with every day in media messages. We are therefore committed to ensuring that the guidelines are properly disseminated and utilized in order to reduce the burden of NCDs. The guidelines will also complement ongoing initiatives aimed at sanitizing our food environment, such as the Healthy Diets for Healthy Lives project, which is working on the formulation of food procurement provisioning, fiscal and food labeling policies, and food marketing regulations. Madam Chair, while hailing this milestone as a country, and I saw some of my colleagues in white, I wasn't in the spirit, I would have worn white too. NDPC is keenly aware of the fact that this also marks the beginning of the hard work in the quest for access to healthy diets by Ghanaians. Just last week, we saw evidence from the recent Fill the Nutrient Gap Analysis study conducted by WFP that nutrient adequate and healthy diets cost 2 to 3 times more than the diets that meet only energy needs, suggesting that poor households may be unable to access healthy diets and may resort to ultra-processed and unhealthy foods and diets, which are, by the way, cheaper and can lead to poorer health. These findings are critical in eliciting appropriate policy responses and design of social protection interventions to protect food insecure populations. NDPC remains committed to supporting the formulation and monitoring of additional policies based on the recommendations of the guidelines to improve our food environment and also to transform our food systems to ensure healthier diets for all. On this note, we would like to thank our partners, the UN country team, for fear of leaving some out. I'll just leave it like that. So we'd like to thank you so much for all the support, the technical and financial support to ensure that this becomes a reality today. Thank you very much. God bless us all.
Thank you very much for that message. Now I'd like to call on Mr. Stephen Tete to give us a message on behalf of the World Vision International. Yes, please give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Yeah. Madam Chair, and all protocol observed. I'm Stephen Tetemati from World Vision Ghana, and I'm giving this statement on behalf of our health and nutrition specialist, who is by name Irabna Kueba Daisy. Yeah, so World Vision, as we all know, is a Christian relief development and advocacy organization where we work with children, family, and communities to promote justice and then overcome poverty. Since 1979, World Vision has been partnering with government and its institutions, notably Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Ghana Health Service, among others, as well as civil society organizations to promote health and nutrition for children, women, and by extension, the entire family. So we've done a lot, and we are most grateful to be part of this process. In fact, the guideline has come at the right time because we are developing educational materials for communities and institutions as we all do. And quite recently, we've also introduced a new approach or methodology in addressing malnutrition among children in resource-constrained communities called positive deviance and half methodology. And it's basically, we know in certain resource-constrained communities where children are malnourished, we still find certain families with well-nourished children. Yeah, so what we do is that we go in and identify what innovation or different things that they are doing, and then get the necessary learnings and share with the entire community, and then support them to adopt it to address malnutrition among children. So this guideline has come at the right time because it's going to facilitate our work in that direction. And I must say that we do that in partnering with other stakeholders involved that I've mentioned. So on this occasion, we want to thank the technical committee for first and foremost helping us to be part of this process and then getting the work done. And we promise to support as we always do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Next, we would like to call on Dr. Francis Kasolo, who is going to give the message on behalf of the UN resident coordinator.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, the Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture, members of the Technical Working Group, colleagues from the United Nations family and other development partners present, directors and staff of the various government ministries, departments and agencies, colleagues, directors and staff from the University of Ghana, distinguished participants, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Francis Kasolo. I'm the World Health Organization country representative to Ghana. And today I stand before you on behalf of Mr. Charles Abani, the United Nations resident coordinator in Ghana, who unfortunately was unable to be with us here due to a previous commitment. However, it is indeed a great pleasure for the United Nations to participate in the launch of Ghana's food-based dietary guidelines. By our counting, the 8th in Africa, but the 4th in West Africa. I sincerely congratulate the multi-sectorial and multidisciplinary technical team who have worked tirelessly in putting this important national document together for such an occasion, and special thanks to the coordination efforts by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the University of Ghana School of Public Health in this regard. The United Nations systems in Ghana is proud to have provided the technical expertise and financial support in producing Ghana's maiden food-based dietary guidelines. Special thanks to my colleagues from the Food and Agriculture Organization, the World Food Programme, UNICEF, and indeed my own organization, the World Health Organization, for the support rendered. Indeed, the development of the food-based dietary guidelines is an important step towards the achievement of Ghana's food systems transformation pathways for ensuring access to healthy diets and the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. Madam Chair, it is critical to mention that the development of the food-based dietary guidelines is a means to an end and not an end in itself. Thus, the food-based dietary guidelines are not to provide publicity for a specific food group, or institutional meal standards, or general dietary guidance, but rather constitute an important evidence-informed tool and a framework for promoting healthy diets and sustainable food systems, and provide guidance for adopting healthier lifestyles, food-related government policies, and program design and implementation. I'm therefore, on behalf of the United Nations, pleased to note that the development of Ghana's food-based dietary guidelines went through a rigorous multi-stakeholder systematic approach in providing evidence for a context-specific and culturally appropriate guidance in addressing the national nutritional challenges for improved health and well-being. The Ghana Food-Based Dietary Guideline is also groundbreaking, as they have integrated aspects of the new food systems approach in dietary guidelines. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will note that in 2020, globally, almost 3.1 billion people could not afford a healthy diet, which, with the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic, was expected to increase further. It was hoped that the world would emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021 and that food security would begin to improve. However, world hunger rose further, as reported in the State of the Food Security and Nutrition in the World Report of 2022. This trend has been worsened by the recent conflict in Russia and Ukraine, especially for countries that depend on the two countries for some of their strategic food imports. Vulnerable populations in some countries, especially the developing ones, have been hit very hard, with the resulting increase in food prices on the local market. These disruptions in the global and local economy, threatening food and nutrition security and livelihood of vulnerable populations, present a desperate call to duty and an opportunity for all stakeholders and sectors to work together as one in ameliorating the situation. Ghana, like many low and middle income countries, is experiencing the triple burden of malnutrition, namely undernutrition, micronutrition deficiencies, overweight, and obesity. The burden of non-communicable diseases, especially hypertension, stroke, diabetes, and cancer in Ghana, is projected to increase due to aging, rapid urbanization, and indeed unhealthy lifestyles. These factors are expected to have implications on healthcare delivery, requiring increased healthcare financing. In addition, Ghana has identified and committed to some very important pathways for transforming the local food systems towards sustainability, among which was the finalization of the Ghana Dietary Guidelines. Honorable Minister, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, today the United Nations is happy to be participating in the accomplishment of one of the commitments of the Ghana government, and to see this has been supported by the United Nations system. This comes as timely and will be catalytic in the development of relevant food and nutrition policies to promote improved access to nutritious, safe, affordable, and sustainable diets for the population. The United Nations will continue to support Ghana's efforts to disseminate and implement these guidelines, to reach all relevant stakeholders and target population groups using our principle of leaving no one behind. I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I move on. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We want to take a musical interlude, and then we will climax the event. But one thing that runs through the various speakers is we are all happy to be part of this, and we are happy that the food-based guideline is being launched today. So please kindly give us some interlude. We will stretch ourselves as usual, and then we'll take the keynote address. Thank you so much. Bill Gates once said that treatment without intervention is simply unsustainable, and that is true. Before our guest speaker comes, we want to observe a minute of silence in honor of a departed, dedicated MTTD team member in the course of duty past. We want to remain silent. May the soul of Mr. Razak Abezra rest in perfect peace. Amen. Thank you so much. We are at the climax of this program, and it's an honor once again to invite the Honorable Deputy Minister in charge of Crops, MP Manson Adubia constituency, and Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture, Honorable Yao Frimpong Ado. A hand of applause to receive Honorable.
Madam Chair, before I start my speech, let me say that today, those of us from the House of Legislature, we are celebrating our birthday. Today is exactly 30 years that we started this journey in the Fourth Republic from 1993. And there is a serious ceremony going on in Parliament right now. That's why I didn't appear in the morning to start the programs with you. From here, I will rush back to Parliament to continue the deliberations there. So, Madam Chair, directors of the ministries and departments, agencies, directors at the Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies, our dons from the universities and research institutions, representatives of the United Nations agencies and other development partners, our online guests, our media fraternity, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's good afternoon, and welcome to this historic event, which outdoors the first ever food-based dietary guidelines of the country. And thank you all for taking time off your busy schedules to witness this occasion. And let me add that our ministry, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, is in transition in terms of leadership. Our minister resigned. We had a caretaker minister, and a substantive nominee had just gone through the vetting. I had a chat with him before coming, and he sends his felicitations, bravo, to you all, and he hopes that the cordial relationship between academia and the ministry will continue, and our development partners. So let me continue. This journey began some 6 years ago in a bid to promote optimum health among the Ghanaian populace through food-based approaches. There was an initial attempt by the Ministry of Health to develop dietary guidelines, but due to significant changes in the food and nutrition arena, the scope and requirements of dietary guidelines has broadened, necessitating action to build on the initial efforts. The Ministry for Food and Agriculture, therefore, took the initiative to constitute a multi-sectorial task team, MTTT, drawn from related ministries, departments, and agencies to develop the FBDGs with technical support from the Food and Agriculture Organization. The collaboration is testimony to the required integrated effort for developing such an important national document. The task team was led by the School of Public Health of the University of Ghana and Women in Agriculture Development Directorate of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. While the process was on course, it was fraught with funding challenges. However, with support from Food and Agriculture Organization, the World Food Programme, and the United Nations Children's Fund, we have been able to arrive at our intended destination of launching the FBDGs today. I must commend the team for the admirable commitment and determination to make this possible. Madam Chairperson, personally, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be associated with this event because it is an important milestone of the pathways of the United Nations Food System Dialogue. We must celebrate this accomplishment since Ghana is one of the few countries in Africa that has produced an FBDGs. This needs an applause. We need it. And the team that put this thing together, I say, Ayiko. This is significant because, as we all know, food, nutrition, and health constitute the bedrock of healthy nation. The FBDGs is built with the whole life cycle from childhood to adulthood, with the aged also very much in sharp focus. Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairperson, sorry, the FBDGs is firmly grounded on the principles of diversity, which ensures access to food, availability and affordability, strengthen capacity across various levels, inclusiveness, evidence that is scientifically proven, practicality, ease of use, and sustainability for ecosystem balance and planetary health. In fact, this last paragraph shows the presence of academia in this whole exercise, and I love it. We all know that nutrition-specific actions address acute health challenges, but they are usually unsustainable. So let us all get on board to adopt the more sustainable measures through food-based approaches in addressing the myriad of challenges associated with food, nutrition, and health. It is also our hope that food losses will significantly reduce in the country if we adopt the recommendations of the FBDGs. Indeed, increasing our consumption of fruits and vegetables, both of which have protective attributes, will help in this regard. All institutions represented are therefore urged to encourage the serving of fruits, especially during our meetings, to support this clarion call, which will eventually bring health to our workforce, greater incomes to farmers, and other value chain actors. Invariably, this will also help reduce the enormous waste perennially experienced in this country. Madam Chairperson, equally, we are also encouraged to take other recommendations seriously through more physical activity and eating what we grow. We should as well eschew the high consumption of processed foods, since most contain high fat, chemicals, and excessive salt and sugar. Alcohol should also be taken in moderation, as we all know the adverse impact of high consumption on our health. It is gratifying to report that there is an implementation plan which is an integral part of the FBDGs. This will guide us all to honor our respective obligations as stakeholders in fulfilling the objective of building a healthy nation.
Madam Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to assure all and sundry that MOFA, that is the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, remains committed to the quest for facilitating sustainable agriculture production to meet food and nutrition requirements at all times. This is necessary for an active and healthy life and overall peace and stability of our country. Our thrust to ensure food availability, access, and stability is inspired by the pillars of food security and nutrition. Food safety is also an integral part of this effort for optimum utilization of food by the body. As a country, we are blessed to have food in great diversity, and we have to maximize consumption of our food commodities to reap all the benefits to enhance our nutritional status. Our indigenous foods have sustained generations, proving to be supportive of our focus towards optimum health. Indeed, evidence from our food consumption tables and research outputs attest to the benefits of patronizing our local foods. Of great concern, however, is our exploitative activities that create serious environmental imbalance. These include pollution of water bodies, deforestation, bush burning, and other forms of degradation of the environment, such as illegal mining activities such as galamsey. If the last bit had not been added, I was going to add it. But my constituency, as you all know, is right in the middle of, I wouldn't say galamsey activities, but small-scale mining activities. You can draw the line. As a country, we need to intensify efforts at protecting the environment if we are to fully benefit from the harvest of our investment in crops, livestock, and fisheries. Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, let me assure also that the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is mindful of various accountability frameworks at the global, regional, sub-regional, and national levels that support our interventions to harness the immense potential of the agriculture sector. These include the SDGs, Agenda 2063 of the AU, the Biennial Review Report, BRR, of the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, the Agenda for Jobs. These frameworks highlight our obligation towards our people to protect and invest productively for sustainable economic development. Regarding nutrition, our indicators and areas of concern include undernutrition, micronutrient deficiencies, which translate into stunted growth, the underweight, anemia in children, anemia in women of reproductive age, and now the emerging problem of overweight in adult men and women. A careful analysis of data on our nutritional status is necessary if we are to fully address the underlying causes of our nutritional problems as a country. Although nutrition is tied to food production, the contribution of other sectors cannot be discounted and remain crucial for realizing our nutritional needs as a country. This further emphasizes the importance of adopting an integrated approach in our development endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, the private sector involvement through investments along the agricultural value chain is also critical for achieving food sufficiency. Investments in agricultural infrastructure, including machinery, processing, equipment, dams, warehouses, among others, are so important. A number of sectors are essential to building a robust food system. Energy, roads, transport, social protection, finance, health, and education have important roles to play and ought to come fully and quickly to terms to that realization. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to being an advocacy tool, FBDGs serve as important tools for creating awareness through dissemination spearheaded by extension agents and community health workers. As change agents, these technical officers reach out to their communities to bring requisite behavioral change. Thankfully, the ministry has had the opportunity of recruiting agricultural extension officers, agents, and veterinary technical officers to support farmers through technical backstopping.
it has to be emphasized that these interventions have helped to replace aging staff and those who have left the service for unknown reasons. On the flip side, ladies and gentlemen, it is sad commentary that there is a decline in hand washing after strict enforcement of the practice during the COVID-19 pandemic. The decline poses a major threat to public health in the country and therefore require urgent attention once again. Given the lessons learned from the pandemic, it should be a tragedy if you look on and allow the country to slip into an undesirable state of exposing ourselves, especially children, to infectious diseases due to indiscipline. To conclude, Madam Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, I wish at this point to recognize Professor Analate, who during her tenure as the nutrition officer at the FAO headquarters in Rome, spearheaded mobilization efforts towards the development of our FBDGs. And Madam is here. So let's give her a hand. Madam, you deserve it. You deserve it. Thank you so much. See, I always say that it is good to export our professionals because they bring good tidings to the country. And she's a typical example of it. Madam, thank you so much. Her efforts were complemented by the Global Panel on Agriculture and Food Systems, who also played an important facilitative role and advocacy. Profound gratitude also go to all our partners, FAO, WAP, UNICEF, and universities for taking this day possible through your invaluable support, for making this day possible through your invaluable support. This accomplishment will certainly be a game changer, especially with the commitment and determination of all partners to ensure full adaptation of the FBDGs. I have no doubt that our partners can be counted upon as always. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Chairperson, that said, I now have the singular honor to declare the nutritional food-based dietary guidelines duly launched. God bless us all.
At this point, the Prof. Chairperson, Dr. Francis Kasola, and the Honorable Deputy Minister will do us the honors of unveiling. Very beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Auntie Claudia, over to you.
All right, so next I will call on Prof. Aite to give us a very brief message.
Thank you. So I don't think we can finish this program without me acknowledging, first of all, everybody who has been part of this. We really are appreciative of your taking time to be part of this, and all those who have walked the journey with us from the beginning of this process. But I would like to mention specifically some agencies and organizations that we have really benefited from in terms of financial and technical support. So out of all the lot, I would just mention these. So the first is the University of Sheffield. In 2016, there was a research project, a collaborative research between the University of Ghana School of Public Health and University of Sheffield. And that project, the short name is TACKLE, but one of the things it did was to really start the conversation around the food-based dietary guidelines and collected a lot of evidence that formed the basis for our dietary analysis. So I just want to acknowledge the whole team that was part of the TACKLE project. And then in 2019, that was when we had opportunity to have training on how to carry out food-based dietary guidelines, especially the aspect of the needs assessment. So that was done by FAO in Accra. And it was from that point that we then had technical support to walk through the process. So I would like to also acknowledge FAO particularly for that. I also like to acknowledge the contribution of the World Food Programme for funding the field assessment and testing of the food-based dietary guidelines. And then also the, UNICEF for funding the dissemination and the printing of the materials, including the launch that is happening here. So I want to thank all these organizations for the various roles that they have played, as well as thank everybody for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for that. Next, we'll call on Prof. Analate to give us the closing remarks.
So, Honorable Okay. So I think we've been talking about the food-based dietary guidelines, but we haven't seen it. So it's going to go around so you all see what this is all about. You've heard it already. So this is it. This is it. Okay. So it's been launched and this is it. So, so we've launched this today. First of all, I'd like to thank the technical tax team and the entire group that really made this possible. This is not one man's work. This is the entire group, and they've done really a great job. Prof, you really shocked me, I must say. You know, I won't say it, but I'll pick it up with you. I think a lot of people kept saying that this is not the beginning. This is not the end. It's only the beginning. Because you've developed a book. Now we have to make it walk, the talk. Okay? And I heard a lot of the partners, when they were talking, they made promises. Please, you can be sure we'll be knocking at your door. Okay? We have taken notes. Everything has been recorded. So please, when we come, don't forget, the technical tax team has to walk the talk, and we need resources to make this happen. So we'll be knocking at your door. You know, once these guidelines are developed, it should guide what we do. So we should see it reflected in our school feeding program. The quality of foods that we give our children, the diet must be guided by this. Our institutional procurement, this has been mentioned, the boarding schools, how they eat, all this should guide them. Now, we can also use this guide to assess the healthiness of our Ghanaian diet. The food-based guidelines should also guide our food production and our food systems transformation. You know, we cannot say that people should eat fruits and vegetables when it is not produced in adequate quantities and it's so expensive. Please, when you go onto the market and check the prices of fruits and vegetables. You'll be surprised. You know, what are we recommending to our Ghanaian households? Look at their income. Are they able to afford it? So let's see, we really need to, Mr. Deputy Minister, our production and doing something about the prices, very important, if we want this food-based dietary guidelines to be translated into action. Okay. Now, we also want to be sure that everybody can afford and have this healthy diet that we are talking about. We have talked about the fact that there will be an implementation strategy. You know, I think that is good, and I've mentioned that we will need the support of all the partners to really implement this strategy. The promotion of consumption, education, all these are part of the strategy that we have to embark on. And finally, I would like to say that we haven't mentioned the consumer very much. You know, as consumers, we are all consumers, and we have to take our health in our hands. Once we've been educated on how we have to eat, you know, we talk about labeling and all of that. It is now for us, we have the information that will help us make the decisions in terms of eating the healthy diet we want. We have the information. Let's make sure that we can really make that decision for ourselves. So this document should be a document that will improve the health and nutrition of Ghanaians. And I'm hoping that in the next few years, when we come to looking at nutritional status of Ghanaians, we will see impact as a result of following the dietary guidelines that have been given. So on this note, I'd like to end, but please join me in saying a big thank you to the technical tax team led by University of Ghana and also the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the rest of the team for a great job done. So thank you.
Thank you. Please give her one more round of applause. All right, so before we go to the next thing, which is the closing prayer, I would like to just go through a few housekeeping issues. So we would really like it if you could join us to take a group photograph outside. So after the closing prayer, we are going to all go outside and take a group photograph, and then we'll return inside and we will share with you guys a very small goodie bag. So not to worry, if you haven't seen the brochure yet, you are assured that every one of you will leave here with a brochure. So please, let's do the closing prayer, then we'll file out to take the picture and then return, get our packages, do a little networking if we want. Maybe we can even worry the minister a little. All right, so now. Okay, so I've been told that we even have the food composition tables from FAO as well. So, of course, after the photograph, you have an opportunity to flip through those booklets as well. So now I would like to call on Mrs. Gifty Ampa to give us the closing prayer. And then remember, after that, we'll file out and go take our photographs and then return here. Is that okay with everyone? Yes?
Shall we pray, please? And so we are grateful to you, our Lord and Master Jesus Christ. We thank you for the opportunity to see today and to see the launch of the Ghana food-based dietary guidelines. We thank you for the lives of all the people who have worked on it and the people who have contributed, whether technically or financially, to see its success. We pray that for all of these groups of people, you replenish mightily. We pray for those of us who have come to hear and for those who are yet to hear. Grant us the understanding, wisdom, and the resources in our own small ways to be able to take these up, feed ourselves well, and contribute to the development of our country. As we live here, we pray for mercies to our various destinations. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, so there are two exits. So let's proceed to the exit so we can photograph real quick and come back. Okay, please use the exit to my left, or yes, to the left. You're right. Sorry. Yes, please. That's why we told you that come back and we give you packages. But everybody comes to you and pressure. That's right. You just it's not in the brown bag. It is in the brown bag. But are you a member of the NTT? Yeah, just there. Okay. Yes, you can pick in the brown bag. But there's one in the brown bag. We are giving everybody. Thank you. Oh. Let me get it. Are you sure? The way they are busy. Please, if you are a member of the MTTT, please hold on. Kindly have a seat now. All MTTT members, please be seated. Yes, you get one. It's in the package. Yes. So, but if you're a member of the MTTT, I'll believe you. Oh. Yes. All MTTT members, please remain seated. Hello. They are sharing it this way. I know you too. I didn't know your name was Emmanuel. Do you have another name? Hey, I'm watching. That's my son. But maybe that's how she knows. The face, no one knows. But I know you. I know you. I don't know why you didn't put a face to me neither. But I didn't know this. But let me worry you. My boss wants to. I saw her walking out. Okay, you know, whatever. So yes. So please don't go. He's my boss. Oh, okay. Hello. Well done. Thank you. So 3 copies of the guideline.